Hey YouTube world, what's going on? Mark here from TST Industries, back in the garage, and today we have the beautiful Aprilia RS 660 behind me. This will be the installation video of our all-new Elite-1 Fender Eliminator system for the Aprilia RS 660. Now, if you want to check out this product in full details and all of its glory, figure out what we did to design it and why we did certain things, be sure to check out our product feature video. The link to that video can be found in the description of this video. But in short, we will be offering 3 different Fender Eliminator options. We have our standard high mount, the adjustable high mount, and of course the Elite-1 low mount system. Now with this kit, you will be removing your OEM fender, you will be losing your signals. We will have a separate video on how to install rear LED pod signals on the Aprilia RS 660, but just note that our Elite-1 kit is pairable with our LED rear pod signals, and we will be offering a bundle with that. And lastly, if you are interested in getting a license plate light, we have our universal license plate light, which can be added on through the product page of this product at a discounted rate, or you can choose to not run one and we won't charge you for it. And in this video, we'll be installing our Elite-1 low mount system, and we're going to hand it over to Bart and he will guide you through the installation process.
Step 1 will consist of removing the license plate off the bike. We're going to retain the hardware. We may need to use the license plate holding hardware on our new setup. Next, get rid of the passenger seat or seat cowl, whatever's present on your bike. Driver's seat comes off. And then we'll have to remove 4 fasteners from this tray. If you only have a seat cowl, this will not be present. If you have a seat tray, this is the procedure. We'll use a 10mm socket for the middle screws, followed by an 8mm socket for the lateral screws. And now the tray comes off. So 10, 10, 8, 8. Now I'll grab a 4mm Allen, remove these screws from the undertail. The screws coming out of here are shiny and they have a shoulder. We'll keep track of all the different screws that come off for this installation, so please pay attention to the type of screw that we're removing from each location so that during reinstallation you know which screws go in which location. At this point, we're going to take it side by side. We're on the right side now. I'm going to find this screw here, 4mm Allen, shiny screw, shoulder present. Now let's go up here. This one is black coated. It also has a shoulder. Silver screw here. It does have a shoulder. And one back here that ties the rear portion of the tail fairing to the tail light. This one is a black screw, but it has no shoulder. It's just a regular screw. Now let's go up the line here to the forward section of this fairing. There is a clip feature that goes under the tank. I'm going to need to disengage that. I get my hands under this part and it just pops right out. And now it's just a matter of undoing a bunch of slide locks here. Gently rotate the bottom outward and upward. And that clears these sliding clip features from their interference window geometry. And then we can put this part to the side. I'm going to jump on over to the left side of the bike, perform the same steps. The removal of the lower side panels here exposes one additional fastener. Let's get that fastener out from each side. This is a black screw. It's a little bit shorter and it has a shoulder. All right, so now we have this chunk separated. The right side fairing, the left side fairing, and the mid fairing are still tied together. using several pieces of hardware, but now we can actually remove this as a chunk, and that just makes things a little bit easier in reassembly. Nice and easy. And now we've gained access here. An additional step that I like to make is the removal of the seat latch. This is done using a 4mm Allen as well. The reason why I take the seat latch off is because the cable here poses some interference. This is not a crucial step. You can skip around it if you're okay digging around through the latch cable. My purpose is here, and to be able to show you what I'm doing a little bit better, we are going to take it off. These are the screws I just removed using a 4mm Allen. There is a latch bracket that sits in here as well. I'm going to take that off, put it to the side. Now we have nice access in here. So let's identify the lighting, fender lighting connection here. There's a 4-position plug that needs to be disassembled. This is the bike side, this is the fender side. This will come out with the fender. And now we still have our taillight wire in the way. Now I'm making access to this nut here and the same nut on the opposite side. These nuts cap off the screw that goes through the fender into the subframe. These will need to be removed. On the bottom, I'm using a T30 size Torx bit. And up top, this is a 10mm nut for added access. We could actually slip off the taillight connection off of its post here. I'm going to use a box wrench because this is a tight space and the axis of this screw interferes with this component. So we are going to have to hold this with an open-ended wrench like so. And I'm turning the screw head from the bottom as I do that. I'm gonna repeat this on the other side. There's one additional screw that needs to be removed. It is on axis here, so it's right below on the fender. This one also receives a T30 Torx tool. Once this is loosened, the whole fender assembly will come down, so we need to suspend the fender, remove that screw. Now the fender is free to come out. We just have to make sure we don't snag this connector. And there it is. So after we take down the fender, we still have these two shoulder washers protruding through the undertail. These will need to be removed. This is fairly easy. There's a wire routing window here. If we pull down on it, that makes enough clearance to pop these guys out. I just hold my hand in front of that spacer on the inside, and it just kind of drops right into my hand. I'm going to do that on both sides. So I grabbed one of our closeouts here. I'm going to mate it in place. As you can see, it matches really nicely the opening lines of this void left behind by the fender. Now, for the low mount Fender Eliminator version, we will have to block off the holes that were left here in the closeout for the purpose of mounting the regular license plate mounting hardware that goes under the taillight. This is an optional part. You don't have to close them out, but in the spirit of keeping debris out and water and whatnot, we will do that. This kit comes with these two canoe clips. The way I recommend installing them is from the top side, from the smooth surface. When you push these through, a little bit pokes out of here. So my recommendation is to flatten it out a little bit. What I like to do is heat this up and kind of let it melt progressively. Unfortunately, the geometry that we had to achieve on the underside of this component does not lend itself to any readily made, readily available push plug. So we kind of have to make do with using what we have, but forming it a little bit. So using a standard lighter here, I'm able to mushroom head it just like that. And what I do is just form it on a slight angle so it has a little bit of a slope. If you view it this way, the top member is a little bit longer than the bottom now. I've formed it that way and I'll show you why. When I now press this component into here, as you can see, because the axis of the hole is straight out perpendicular to this surface, now this surface is slanted. So we want to try to make this surface of the push pin a little bit slanted. Like I mentioned before, this is an optional step just for cosmetics. If this is too much, you can just omit this one and it'll be just fine. So I press this in, it becomes pretty flush with the surface. I wouldn't overheat the anodized surface, but if you need to just give it a little bit of gloss after installation, that should be just fine. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to form the other one. Now I have the push pins flush, and to my satisfaction, I'm going to grab the rest of the hardware from the closeout kit. We have a spacer that has a shoulder on it. The shoulder will fit into the bike, and the square end will fit on the inside of our closeout here. We have a long screw that will be mounting this location here with the spacer, and in the forward locations we have threaded bosses in our closeout. These will receive one of these flush head 4mm tool M6 screws. Each one will also receive a washer. So the screw and washer get coupled up like this, go from the top side. I'm actually gonna go ahead and drop those in. All right, before we move forward, I'd like to stress the importance of using a medium strength thread locking compound on all these threads. So I'm gonna put a little bit of that stuff into our closeout mounting bosses. And then I'm going to also put a little bit of that thread locking agent onto the longer screw that we'll be using in the aft location. So my recommendation is to use the spacer and the longer screw first. This screw needs a 5mm Allen. Gonna line this up, get that thread started. I'm not gonna go all the way bottom because that would push out my forward screws. Then I'm going to use a 4mm tool to align and start the threads on the forward screws. For the fender here on this particular bike are in such a location that their axes are actually interfering with this member. So what I'm using here is a ball end hex tool. This is how I'm finding the thread and going to bottom, but I will finish tightening this using an L wrench like this, because that still affords me enough leverage here and it remains on axis. So I have these two forward screws pretty bottomed out. On the bottom, I'm going to use the 5mm in the rear section, just making sure that everything's aligned. Tighten it down all the way. All right, that's looking good. Now I'm going to tighten down the forward screws. Got a little bit loose after tightening the rear screws, so I'm going to re-bottom them. And now take them to full tightness. For the following step, I've grabbed the actual license plate bracket for the low mount position. This is the correct configuration, the little U-cut that is meant to receive the license plate light wire. It's a relief that lets the wire go through. That one goes towards the top, and the V geometry points to the bottom. We line up our screw slots with the screw holes here. For the fastening, we have a washer and screw pair for each side. What I'm going to do is apply a tiny little bit of the medium strength thread locking compound onto this thread as well. Now I'm going to grab a 3mm Allen, and I'm going to get these guys close to bottom, but leave a little bit of adjustability. Now these are slots, so we technically can position them left or right. This is kind of subjective, so you will need to use your best judgment of where you feel center is. I think I have it pretty center here. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten down all the way on this. Now, if you are running a license plate light setup on this configuration, I'll show you real quick how that will be routed. You have two possibilities of routing, one of which is pretty invasive. It requires you to drill a hole in here. For me, that is a slightly better option because it hides the wire. Otherwise, the wire has to go up and be visible through here. The drawback to that approach is that you actually have to put a little hole through here. If you were to put a hole through here that's 1/4 inch in size, technically you can use one of these canoe clips down the line if you want to close it out and just push it through there. No big deal. It's just a matter of what you're prepared to do on your bike and to your bike. If you do not want to place a hole here, or if you don't have the tools necessary, you can actually just put the license plate light wire up into this relief in the closeout. It'll come out the top. You'll be able to route it like so. And then in the lighting video, we will show you how to connect it and be all 100% set up there. But essentially, you'll end up with this look. Your license plate will be here, and you will have a section of exposed wire. You can run it a little nicer. Possibly use a zip tie at the bottom and get it nice and straight so that you don't have an off-putting look. So technically, you can get it to this point, but that's beyond the scope of installing the fender eliminator. So we will touch on that some more in our lighting video. For now, just want to continue with this installation. The low mount version of our fender eliminator comes with TST Industries anodized license plate hardware. The color is of your choice. For this installation, we chose red because it really accents this bike really nicely. So we're going to make use of that. Let's go one pair at a time. We have a nut that will be backing up this connection This nut will be interfacing the bracket through a large washer. On the outside, we have a screw that's countersunk and this anodized washer. There's no need for thread locking agents on this connection because we have a nylon locking element in this nut. It's built in. So let's move forward with that. The tools we will need here are 8mm open-end wrench or box wrench for the nut. And from the outside, the screw will be a 3mm Allen. Once we get some bite on the threads, we can move forward to the second side. Now we'll get these nuts almost to bottom out, preserving just a tiny little bit of adjustability. Make sure it sits as high as I want it to sit and also level, center, and then I'm gonna tighten it down all the way. And this step will be complete. Now we can proceed to the reverse order of disassembly.
And there you have it. And as you can see, with the removal of your OEM fender and the installation of our Elite-1 low mount fender eliminator, this Aprilia RS 660 has been completely revamped on the rear end. It really streamlined the look of it and give you a nice clean look and professionally done. If you want to check out this product or any other product we have for the RS 660 or any other bike that may be in your garage, be sure to stop by our website, tstindustries.com. The link to this exact product is in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment field below. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay up to date with all the new and exciting videos we will be putting out. And lastly, don't forget to stop by our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all username TST Industries. For now, this has been Mark and Bart from TST, and we'll catch you guys next time.